All right. Party people in the place to be, vandals, and what else might be kicking out there in the sublime subconscious. This is a brand new episode of Pink Spots. This is a shorter version of Pink Buzz where we cover one book in particular. And oh man, Joe picked this one out, and it's been one of my favorites since it came out a few years ago. Has it been about 3 years, Joe,
Oh
since
yeah,
it came out?
probably before the pandemic. So I'd say a solid 3, maybe 4 years even. I'm not sure, but it's been at least 2, if not 3 years easily. Yeah, the date
It's a
probably
very
written.
Canadian book, so I'm not surprised he picked it, but like it is a gloriously Canadian book. You want to go ahead and kind of lay into the people what it is before we do our check-in?
2019. So yeah, 3 years ago. All right, Little Bird. It's basically it encapsulates the story of the segregation of how religion forces segregation onto cultures and stuff. And they took that concept and created a story with it. And it follows the story of this little girl who lost her mother to this religious power or leaders or like how do you say that reign of these they control and rule like this religious rule, and so it's her journey to try to go get her mom back, save her from these religious zealots, right? So it's brutal, it's beautiful, like Ian Bertram does the art in this, and it's he's at his best in this. Darcy Van Poelgeest is the one who wrote it. He's right now he's residing in Vancouver, in the West in BC. Uh, and Matt Hollinsworth teams up with Bertram to do the colors on the art, which is fantastic. Aditya Bidikar does the lettering, which is on point, masterfully done, beautiful, matches the art, integrates the lettering into the art perfectly, like flawless. And then you have the designer for the book who did the logo, the chapter breaks, uh, the inlay for the front and back cover inlays, Ben Zidzier, uh, and he's like it's beautiful. It's such. I have the hardcover here. I bought the hardcover, and it's just fantastic. It's beautiful. Like you can see Z's work there on the inside of the back cover. Then you have the logo, which is fantastic logo as well. Like I mean, beautiful, right? What's not to like? Uh, and you get a little taste for like his chapter breaks. He does these little for each chapter break. You get the cover of the individual issues, and he designs like a little opposing page with like just these little designs that just add a beautiful touch and sophistication to the book that is hard to beat. Yeah, it's and I love this book. It's a wonderful story.
True that. And before we get into the synopsis and our general overview and absolute adoration of the book, we have a check-in. And I know Joe's been rearing to go because it's been a while since our last check-in. Joe, what have you checked out recently?
Quite a bit of stuff, man. Been hitting none of my oh yeah, one of my holiday reads, the something I got over from my sister for Christmas. I asked for Paper Girls, the hardcover editions. So I read the first book one. I got through that because we're going to be covering this on the show eventually with a guest. If our special guest that's supposed to be accompanying us on that one is still interested in coming on the show, so we'll have a guest with us covering that one. I bought this a while back and I hadn't cracked it open. Kaiju number 8. It's a new manga that just came out maybe a couple months ago. And I was on Instagram, and Matt King, the writer for Tales to Enlighten, posted a few pages from it when he was reading it. I was like, oh, because I had never even cracked it open to see it, and it's beautiful. And I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a mix between a little bit of a Devilman and maybe Attack on Titan, kind of a mix of the two kind of vibe to it. I found, but I don't read that much manga, so I don't have much for reference there. I read this came out this week. Rain by it's a Joe Hill story adapted by David M. Booher and Zoe Thorogood, and Chris O'Halloran is on colors, and great first issue. Love that. This came out 2-3 weeks ago. Is Lemire's Swamp Thing, Green Hell. Great first issue there. Loved it. Doug Mankey does the art, and David Barron does the colors, and Steve Wands does the lettering, and it's a great first issue. Great first issue. Good start to that one. I read the second issue of Daisy by Colin Lorimer. Managed to hit Cloaked, a Dark Horse book, another Dark Horse book by Mike Richardson and Jordi Armengol. The second issue of Good Boy, which is the reverse John Wick story. That's by Source Point. I got He Cat's Will. That's and that's a Black Mass book, and it's Yolanda Zanfardino who does that book. You might also know her from. She has a new Image book out that's called Truth of. Anyway, people who are familiar will know which one it is.
She wrote Black AF though too, right? With the spin-off series for Kwanzer's book. I'm pretty sure that she
possibly.
worked on that.
And the other one I know of is Alice in Leatherland. I think it's called Alice in Leatherland. That's another Black Cave book, I believe. So she's done that, and it's the same team that did this one. The title's not on it. It's The Truth of Semblance or something like that. I can't remember the exact title, but it has truth in it anyway. I haven't read it yet. That's why I can't remember the name, but that's her other book. And I read a Magnetic Press book, The Wall. It was a fun dystopian kind of Mad Max in the future with anyway, it was a pretty fun read. And I love the little quote by the illustrator in there, Mario Alberti. He has a quote where he's like, "This book is for all those people who like to break down walls and build bridges." And I think that's a great little quote that maybe not enough of us live by anymore. We're too quick to cancel people, block them. We don't communicate anymore. And I think that's a great little quote that really, really resonated with me. So that's the comic front. And then for the shows I've watched, I did some Cobra Kai. We finished The Witcher. What else? Afterlife. We just binged that this afternoon. So kind of hit a bit of a down this afternoon after work after watching that. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up my check-in.
Okay, cool. As for me, I got a couple really cool books this week. I got the second arc for Dead Legends, written by James Maddox and Gavin Smith. This is a really, really kind of cool homage to fighting and beat 'em up games. It's probably one of the most just fun, kick-ass comics I've ever read about like a martial arts tournament. Very grindhousey, very throwback. It's put out by a Wave Blue World. Very worth checking out. Both trades are phenomenal and can't put enough of a good spin on it. I also got Ed Pixer's Red Room, which was delightfully disturbing. It was a little more preachy than I thought it was going to be, but that's fine. You know what I mean? I didn't expect it to actually have a message about rich people and stuff like that. So that was very interesting to actually get into and find that it had something like that to it, because I was just expecting it to be gross. So, and it was, but there was more to.
Yeah. There's definitely a commentary on like the way we consume our social media and how it's changing the way we interact with people too. Like maybe not for the better, like for the worse. I think it's just basically the message is social media is making people lose our empathy
Assholes.
for one another.
Yeah.
Social media is slowly destroying society's empathy and the empathy we could have for one another, so that we treat each other like we're not people anymore, and we could just throw them away and treat each other like shit, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then today I got finally came in. I've been dying to get my hands on these. My physical copies of Final Girl by Nick Holmes. It's a Kickstarter
Ooh.
I backed about this female Jason Voorhees-esque slasher of slashers. It's got this really kind of throwback art. It's very lovely. I'm really excited to have those. So those are my comic check-ins. For movies, I like everybody else rented the what's that new Marvel thing, the X Texticles, the
Yeah, the Eternals. Yeah.
yeah, that thing. I watched it. It made no sense. Like, I don't know what it's supposed to do with the MCU, but it exists, I guess, in there. And
Mm,
aside from that, I've got the last episode that just aired yesterday of The Expanse, which I'm gonna watch, which is a show I
mm,
really love. That's a Amazon show. So yeah, I'm gonna finish
yeah.
The Expanse, and then I'm gonna get into the new season of Cobra Kai. I know I'm late to that party, but hey, man, sometimes it's
Well,
fun to be
it,
fashionably late.
it's only been out for 2 weeks, so that's not too bad. The Expanse. How many seasons are there of The Expanse?
This is the sixth and final season.
Six and final. I think I watched season one, and I haven't continued since then. So I should probably get back into it.
It's pretty cool. It's got its ups and downs. There are certain characters I really like, but then there's a lot of the show that I dislike. I don't know. It's kind of very representative of a lot of shows that are around now, like Game of Thrones, where you'll have your favorite characters, but you don't really like the entire show, and that's kind of how I
Well,
am with The Expanse. But
yeah. We have some people trickling in there in the chats. We have Matt from the End Pod, man. He's hey, he's up. He's probably having a little drink or getting ready for bed,
oh,
man.
he must have liked the X testicles, huh? You're welcome to use that there, Spanky.
Well, he didn't like it at first, and then he rewatched it, and he's like, maybe it's grown on me a little bit, but he didn't go as far as to say he liked it. He's like, there's maybe some redeeming qualities to it, but not. L's in the house. How's it going, L?
I think you
Uh,
might like The Expanse. It's pretty violent. There's I don't know some kinky stuff going on. I don't know if it's completely up to L standards, but I think you'll have fun with some of it.
it ain't no
JP,
stretch.
what's up, buddy?
Yeah, Juan, what's up? Hope you're
Uh,
enjoying your weekend. He's taking it easy this weekend, so said he was going to do his homework. He said he was going to go watch Pig and read Little Bird for tonight. So I don't know if he got his homework done, but hey, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's some grinding right there, man. Pig and Little Bird.
Hey, that's
That's
some
an
good grinding.
introspective night. You're gonna have
Yeah.
weird dreams. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Nice. You got the limited
oh,
edition. Yeah.
no, I wouldn't really say that at all. Like, you talking about that sci-fi channel Battlestar Galactica that people try to say was good, but
Mm,
really wasn't. Like, no,
mm,
like The
yeah.
Expanse is actually a pretty decent show.
Mm.
Uh,
And I'd just like to apologize to everyone. We were supposed to do this episode on Wednesday, I believe. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday. And we had to reschedule it. So people who maybe didn't get the message after I said we rescheduled it and tuned in on Thursday, I'd like to apologize firsthand. Something came up and we were forced to change the schedule and the time, but we're doing it tonight. So anyone who joined us tonight, happy that you were able to make it tonight to come on this little ride with us as we talk about Little Bird.
right, yeah, it was all my fault. Like, I was too tired, man. Like, I had a really bad night the night before, and like I needed Smeeps, and Joe understood. But getting into this book, I'm gonna go ahead and let Joe kick off the synopsis because it's his pick, and yeah. Why don't you go
Uh,
ahead and
I I touched on it a little bit in the beginning, or I could just do the lazy thing for the synopsis and read it off the back of the
yeah,
book.
go ahead. If it has a good one. I usually I hate the solicits on backs of image trades though. They're really sloppy and lazy written. But if you think it's good, go ahead.
Actually, it's almost what I said, but much more eloquently put than the way I described it. So it's the Little Bird book one. The title for this first arc is called the Fight for the Elders' Hope. Little Bird was born into war, and it's the only life she's known. When her village is destroyed and her mother kidnapped by the oppressive American Empire, she fights to reignite the resistance that once was and defeat the enemy. To save her country, to save her people, to discover her own identity in a world on fire. Little Bird is the critically acclaimed sci-fi epic from award-winning filmmaker Darcy Van Poelgeest and an Algoloem nominated artist Ian Bertram. Ah, man, I fucked that up. Angoleum. Anyway, I could put it up. You guys could read it maybe better than I can, how it's pronounced. Anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like I said, it definitely touches on this journey of this girl that's part of a indigenous tribe that is oppressed by, right here they say Americans, but really it's a
Religious
religious group.
fundamentalist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I viewed it more as that, not so much as American oppression, but I think it's much more about how just in society, whatever ruling class, whether it's a religious class, whatever class, how we try to force minorities or other cultures that have less power, force segregation onto them to become like us. And that's the story of this. This is Little Bird. It follows her story. Like they said, her mother gets kidnapped by these religious factions, and she's on a quest to find her mother. And along the way, she encounters resistance and finds tries to rebuild the rebellion, like it said, and she is definitely a badass little girl, man.
Yeah, right there in the first issue where she kind of goes to the compound and releases the character the Axe, who is basically
ah,
kind of like this freedom fighter who's just this
mhm.
big burly dude. And yeah, like she's in there, and I love just the subterfuge that she uses to break in, and like she steals the one guy's arm because and gives it to a wolf
Well,
to get him
yeah,
to. And then the accents, oh, dude, it's very
yeah,
clever. Like, it's a very solemn, very kind of tragic
mm,
book, but there are some very funny moments in it, like the stuff with the axe and the soldier in his arm. Like,
mhm.
that actually kind of really
Yeah,
cracked me up.
yeah, and just to get to the compound to release to because he's captured as well, and he was part of the resistance. So she goes to save him, and just like she kills a wolf, guts it, and wears the hide, and crawls on all fours to sneak up to the compound so they don't recognize her. And you know, it's and there's a lot of blood in this. So man, if you like gory, violent, it's quite violent comic. Like this is definitely a book you'll enjoy. Like I got big time like 90s heavy metal vibes from it when I read it the whole time. Like it does definitely has that old school 90s heavy metal indie vibe to it, which I love. And
Well,
Ian Bertram's art like reflects that style really well, really
well,
well.
aside from just the visceral, violent gore, there's also there's what they call black science in the book, which is almost like this biopunk type stuff. So there's like all this kind of body horror that's going on,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
as well as
Yeah,
the actual visceral, violent violence with the knives and the axes, which there's plenty of too. There's lots of dismemberments
yeah,
going on.
yeah. Like this is a page just from where she goes to save Axe. Okay, it starts with her. She gets in there, then Axe is released, and just you know, blood, gore, guts everywhere. It's pretty gruesome, pretty gruesome. Yeah. So she releases Axe to help to have him help her because I think he's kind of like the grandfather figure to her.
Yeah,
To
you end up finding that out. Yeah, it's actually a um a family story when you get deep into the heart of this book. It's actually
Mhm. Yeah.
a
And so that's why she goes and gets him, so he can help her go and overcome these the forces that are holding her mother captive. And that's he definitely brings a an edge to the book once he's introduced. There's a lot more violence. There's a lot more. Just his escape is just like I was in. I was totally in right from that first issue. He gets out. Just her, how brutal she was, and I mean, and I've got to say, she's she's a little girl, young girl, and the brutality and the violence towards her as well
yeah.
is off-putting. Like she gets the crap kicked out of her more than one occasion, and it pulls no punches. Like this book pulls no punches. Like you're you're gonna read this, and it may be there might be a few panels that where you're like, oh, that's off-putting. Like it definitely. Uh, there's definitely some graphic panels and scenes in this for sure. So then, after Axe is released, they continue their journey uh, to the what would you call what was it called? The Badlands. That's in Alberta, but they had a name for the city. It's located in the Badlands, so they're traveling to the Badlands. But I can't remember the name of the city. I don't remember
Hey,
the name.
Cookie.
Oh, Cookie. Yeah, but I can't remember the name of the city where it's kind of like the Vatican or whatever, where all these religious people are going, and that's where they're traveling. But on her way, whenever she gets, because there's something about resurrection, right? And whenever she gets near death, she has these fever dreams, right, where she goes into this surreal dream, and she gets after these dreams, she kind of gets resurrected, right? Because there's that one part where she's buried, and then she comes back to life, and the guy's, oh shit, she's back. So that part was there's like this weird trippy thing about, and I don't know if that's like in connection with indigenous people, how a lot of their beliefs are connected to nature, how there's a direct connection to the land, nature, and you only take what you need, and there's a balance. So I think that probably has something to do with that aspect of the story where she dreams, and it's that connection to the land, the direct connection of life, and everything's connected. Like those sequences are pretty trippy too, and Ian
Yeah,
Bertram does
well, I
a
mean, the
fantastic job.
first the first dream encapsulated pretty much the entire second issue. Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
first page splash page of the second issue is, oh my
yeah,
God, so gorgeous, dude. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and
It's pretty cool.
you take this trip with her, and yeah, and when she wakes up and she meets the actual uh, Vatican soldier that's on the run, that's going to actually kind of be a key part of
Mhm.
the story. It's really interesting. The book really kind of gets on its feet and runs, but at the same time, it really kind of bounces back and forth between this surreal nightmare world and this surreal, I guess, sci-fi world, because it doesn't ever get realistic, but at the same time, like it's just I don't know how to put it. It almost does happen in two different realms, though. Like
Yeah,
there's
it,
almost like
it's
the spirit world and the waking world, like native
and
style.
and almost like a contrast from like medicine technology as to like spirituality. You have the contrast of the two as well, because her journey is more of a spiritual one where she has these fever dreams, and the leader, the what's his name,
Bishop.
uh, the bishop, like they're all like more technology, right? They resort to medicine technology, where you said like their soldiers are all these like genetically altered, half robot, half human, like army that they have, right? So you get that contrast of spirituality and technology. So you kind of get a little bit of that, like uh, the worship of technology over the soul. So you have that duality in the book as well, which is really cool and lends to that whole sci-fi aspect, like you said. Mm,
Well, it definitely goes into kind of what we've talked about with Manu on his show, and that is the close connectiveness between Canadian creators and the European style, because this book leans very heavily on European style surreal sci-fi, especially the early works of Alejandro Jodorowsky. Like if you've ever read like Metabarons or Megalix, this is a lot like that with the kind of really heavy religious overtones on top of oppression of people. And I think that they really nailed it and brought it home for an
mhm.
American audience. I knew a lot of people who didn't get this book and still don't get it, but I just don't think that they've ever really kind of tried to, um, step in and read this type of narrative before, because I mean it's almost iconic at this point, but
Well,
it's a
it's
new
this
thing for America. And
basically it's a story of when Europeans came to North America, right? That's basically what the story is, but set in a fantasy sci-fi world. It that's basically what it is. When Europeans settled in Canada, the US, how we forced indigenous natives to, like, we forced them from their families into schools, into, and that's, and like, this was all funded by the church, by religion, so it's definitely, that's the story. Like, I mean, like, it's not an accurate telling historically, like word for word and what happened, but that's the basic basis. That's the idea of this story. That's what inspired this, is like it the atrocities that were done to these people when we as Europeans came and settled in North America, you know, and it's done in such a beautiful way, and like clever, fun, interesting. Like, it's violent, and history is violent. Like, how many wars have we had over uh like land? Like,
all of
and
them.
it, yeah. So I mean, it doesn't pull any punches, but if you go through history books, uh, no one ever pulled any punches when it came to fighting for land, for your rights. So this book definitely reflects that, the brutal aspect of colonialism, and so yeah, and if people don't like reading that, then they just don't like facing the truth, you know. Mm.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, there was a whole batch of books like this that came out too that were really good. There was this, there was Extremity, there's First Knife and stuff like that. And I think people have kind of warmed up to them. But like I remember when this one came out, it actually like scared a couple people I knew. Like, and I was just like, "You're being a baby, man. This book is fucking awesome, man. Like, it's about time somebody wrote something like this and put it out."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we're kind of getting into like the 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 meat of where this story comes from, but I mean, it is fiction. It's set in a fictional world, and I mean, it's fantastic. And after, like we were saying, the grandfather figure acts. They continue their journey to go find the mother, and then you get to where she gets into the Badlands, where he meets up with an old friend, and I can't remember his name.
The sergeant.
Yeah, the sergeant, which is a cool character. He's like what would you say, a black market dealer kind of. He always
Yeah, he's a
playing
smuggler
both
now. He's
sides.
kind of
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
he's a
Yeah,
skeezy. He's a skeezy
like the like
smuggler type dude.
like the Han Solo of this book, kind of. Yeah, and those scenes are awesome, like the desert scenes, and yeah, I'm trying to find a
I
page with
liked
that.
I liked the ambush in the woods with the guerrilla fighters, man, and like the crazy bomb that cuts the trees in half, dude. How fucking
Yeah,
cool
this
is that?
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, dude. That's probably some of the
yeah.
neatest art I've ever seen in a sci-fi comic, dude.
See, then they bring out that little thing. They put it on the ground, and then the next. Oh wait, it's a few pages over. Oh crap! It's that. There we go. It gets broken up. Okay, so they're there, they're shooting, the rebels are shooting at them. Okay, set it up. Then they're like, jump on the ground. Boom. It does like this
Yeah,
radial laser that shoots and just, you
halves
know,
everything, man. Halves
yeah, it
everything.
just, there's a circumference and they just hide and it just tears everything down. And you see like the trees are cut at, and everyone's chopped at the waist. It's freaking awesome. Mm, yeah.
And crappy webcams can't capture the coloring of Matt Hollinsworth
No,
perfectly. I mean, like the
no.
coloring in this book is so glorious and gorgeous. There are just so many just vivid blues and purples and pinks in it, man. Like it is just a gorgeous, visceral read.
Yeah, Matt Hollinsworth does a masterful job with the colors on this. Like he doesn't, he's subtle where he needs to be. Like he does a fantastic job of like setting the mood with the colors in this. Yeah, like these are the, here's another, like you said, the soldiers where they're kind of part technology.
Oh, the
Uh,
Army of 12 soldiers, yeah, they are so
yeah.
cool. Like Juan kind of talked about them earlier in the chat. You had the weird floating nun characters, and then you have the Army of 12 kind of I guess you consider they're bishop looking type creatures
Hmm.
that yeah, they're nightmare fuel, especially if you're not a fan of religious iconography like I am, you know what I mean? Like they're
Hmm.
pretty damn terrifying.
Yeah, the Reverend Mother. Yeah, the Reverend Mother is like the supposedly the head of all the forces here. And what was the main bad guy called again? The Bishop.
Bishop? Yeah.
Yeah, the Bishop. Yeah, he more or less has to follow her reign, but like anything, he's looking to you know, take control and from her, uh, and uh,
And
do
expand his
a
family
coup.
as you end up
Yeah, do a
finding
coup.
out.
Yeah, as you keep going, yeah, that's one of the dreams, I think, right? Where that's revealed. It's in one of her fever dreams, or is it the mother's dream? But there's a lot of dream sequences. It gets very surreal at times. So, you know, when you read it, you got to pay attention to
It
like
was the
the
dream
dream sequences.
sequence where
Hmm.
it is the one where she sees the mother again, but it's also where she finds out she has the brother. It's the
The
one
brother,
where
there was two,
you
yeah, two children. When the bishop was chasing them through the woods, she went and hid. And then as she escaped, she could only save one child, and the bishop ends up with the second child. So they got separated at birth. Yeah, but she's unaware of this. She doesn't know she has a brother. Yeah, and then that gets revealed later on, and that is a brutal scene as well. Once they get reunited.
well, because you end up finding out earlier in the book he is forced to do something that you think is unforgivable, but she actually ends up helping him turn it into probably his biggest source of strength in the entire story, which I
Mhm.
thought is probably one of the key narrative things. I'm not going to spoil it here. That's about all I'm going to
No,
say, but
yeah,
yeah.
because those two, there's two things that he does in the book that is just like wow. You're like, damn, that's one is super brutal and the other one is yeah, there's two big, he has two huge moments in the book that are really fantastic scenes in it. Like, oh, look at this. This is one of the dream sequences, right? Right there, where she's dreaming, like, and the twigs start coming and then growing through her face. I mean, what's not to love? Like you said, the colors. You know, the colors in this. They just pop at times, especially when they get to the Badlands where the religious group rules the technology and stuff, where they do experiments on her. Fantastic, fantastic work. Ian Bertram and Matt Hollinsworth. I mean, I think they were born to collaborate together, like draw in colors. It's just outstanding, outstanding.
Well, I mean, it's got a visual style unlike anything I've ever seen before, and I've read comics from all over the world, and I haven't even seen shit from Europe that looks like this book. You know what I mean? Like the actual
Mhm.
art style of it is just one of a kind, and you're just looking at all these different panels, and even ones where people are just like standing there talking. It's some of the most
Yeah,
gorgeous stuff you can
yeah,
look at, which.
exactly. Where the brother and sister talk. Like, look at that.
And Gabriel's got such a neat look to him, anyways, with the mask, with the hoses going to
Yeah.
his nose. Like,
Uh, yeah, there's some great scenes, uh, great stuff, great stuff. I mean, like, look, just like where's the cross? Like you
oh
can see
my
it, with
God, yeah,
all the
dude.
people that are just built up there. I mean, it's
Kind of reminds you of the buildings where everybody's plugged into it in the Matrix, but instead of that, like it's just a bunch of people crucified together like that. It's you just, oh,
crucified.
that's
Yeah,
so brutal. That's so
yeah,
metal. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Well, it kind
And
of makes
like
sense that the next book's going to be called Precious Metals, right? Like, because it's going to be
precious
like,
metal. Yeah, it
because
should
this
be
one's pretty metal.
still slated to come out in 2022. Darcy put out his newsletter this week, and he didn't have any specifics, just that they're still working on it, that it's amazing, probably the best work all three of them have ever done in their careers, and that it's still slated to come out sometime in 2022, but he couldn't specify any specific dates, but that it's still scheduled for the 2022 uh, like these are the desert scenes with the Sarge guy. That's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
there's just
I mean, you look at Bertram's style, and you would say that it's simple. You know what I mean? You would that there is a simplicity and a cartoonishness to it, but at the same time, it's one of the most detailed and complex looking styles I've ever seen. So, like,
and
I
he
wouldn't
loves
want to.
he loves these like tentacle style. Whoops, like the tentacle style, like red things crawling around and like veins or blood that like blood tentacles that come out, and he does that in a lot of his art, and it's beautiful, man. And it must
Yeah,
take a lot of time to draw that because he puts a lot of them in there. It's crazy.
his horror book that he did with Tomasi, House of
House
Penance, was
of
full of
Penance.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
had all the
House of Penance is a great one too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the Winchester Mystery House, yeah, would have been, they should have just made the movie about that comic instead of making that crappy Winchester movie. They'd had a way better movie on their hands. But back to
And
Little Bird.
yeah, and this, you know what? It kind of gives like a vibe of Dune, like with the desert scenes, and like even the way the outfit for the bishop, like how they're dressed with the black outfits and stuff. Like it has a Dune. Like I didn't see the new one, but the one from the 70s Dune or the early 80s, like his outfit, you know,
Yeah,
it
he's
definitely
pretty
gives that
Harkonnen
vibe.
looking. Yeah.
Yeah, like it definitely has that vibe and look to it. I find as well. Like I got some Dune vibes from it a little bit. I mean, the story's not the same at all. Like it probably has some aspects that are similar, but yeah, like if you like Dune, this definitely has that weird sci-fi kind of gross, like because they have that disease, and
Yeah.
it does reflect in here because some people are diseased, like the little like the brother has like a disease that they're trying to cure,
Well,
right?
like
That's why he has the mask.
all the American people kind of have like that kind of weird lumpiness to their skin where they're kind of all
Hmm.
red and kind of their veins are bulged out and kind of gross looking.
Yeah,
Whereas like
yeah,
the Canadian natives are a little more natural looking, a little more healthy.
yeah. Like so, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some influence from Dune on this book because it definitely has the sci-fi vibe I get from it. It has a definitely has a similar vibe to that I found. Mm.
Yeah, I would say a little bit, probably not
Yeah.
too much. Um
Just a little bit, like certain aspects of it. I got that kind of vibe from it. Mm, yeah.
I'd say definitely check out Meta Barons by Jodorowsky, man. Like you totally see kind of where they got a lot of their stuff for this book from.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's okay if you're gonna rip something off, man. Rip something badass off, and yeah,
Yeah.
Meta
Yeah.
Barons.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like man, if you're into that kind of stuff, like kind of a retelling or a fantasy retelling of the segregation of people, forced segregation, it definitely does not put religion in a positive light. I would say it's definitely
Yeah, if
puts
you're a very Christian person, you're probably not gonna like this
not
book
gonna
too
enjoy
much.
this
Just
book,
gonna say.
yeah, because
Just
it
saying.
doesn't yeah, it doesn't put any kind of religious group or anything in a very positive light or an affirming light. You know, it's definitely they're the antagonists. The bad guys are the religious people.
But
So
if you look at it properly, they're not attacking the entire religion. It is focused on the idea of fundamentalism and people who take it as the only thing. The you know
mhm,
what I mean, take it too far. Whereas I
mhm.
don't think it's an attack on people who just have basic faith at all.
Basic faith,
To tell you
yeah,
the truth.
yeah. It's more of the institution, I think, of how religion becomes an institution, and that institution forces their views, their beliefs, and they take their power and force it onto people. Not so much the idea of religion, but more of the idea of the institution of religion, right? I think that's more kind of what it gets at. Like,
Yeah, the radicalization and the fundamentalization of it. Yeah,
mm,
it's always when things turn bad and
mhm,
when those ideas get injected into stuff. And I think that this book kind of handles it. Of course, they don't like spoon feed you that, but I think if you're intelligent enough, you can pick up on that. Like it's not just attacking you if you are a Christian. You know what I mean?
and it's not all made up out of the blue. Like, all the
No,
ideas and themes of this are all things that have been inspired by actual events throughout history, right? So anyone
the
that reads
reason
this is, oh, well, this and that. Well, this kind of shit happened, and this
and it
book was
shares
inspired
views
by
that
that.
I've Yeah, it shares views that I've had since I was a child, and the reason why
Mhm.
I'm a non-religious person personally, you know what I mean? So when I read it, it just really clicked with me, you know what I mean? I was
Yeah,
already there with it, you know? So,
and it's not saying spirituality is bad,
well,
because
definitely not, because
because
that's a good
yeah,
thing for some people, you know what I mean? It really
yeah.
helps certain people out of really bad places, and
But I think in this book it try to reinforces more the aspect of spirituality over religion, right? Because because Little Bird, like when in her dreams, and the way it connects to the world and the the land, it's a very spiritual kind of way. Like her dreams aren't they're extremely like spiritual, and like how there's a greater connection, how we're all connected. And
well,
I think that's kind
well,
of
it's
a
a
little bit
religion. Earth worship is worship, just like the worship of a
mhm,
god. You know what I mean? So it is showing two different faiths
mhm,
at war with each other, kind of in a
mhm,
way with this. And one is shown slightly in a more positive light. But then again, I've never really heard of an Earth worshiping sect doing the type of evil things that you know that the
mhm,
Catholic Church has perpetrated over the centuries. You know,
mhm.
so.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Especially with all the stuff that's been coming out around here with the schools and the unmarked graves found in different schools and stuff. I think this book has an even more
Been an
uh,
eye-opening year for Canada, that's for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like this book, like I mean, this was written before, and now with that stuff happening, go and read this book, and I think it takes even more. Uh, uh, it hits even harder now because of those things. Like for
Even more
anyone,
relevant. Yeah.
yeah, it becomes
Even
even more relevant, and it hits a lot harder because now like you really see like uh yeah, it's oof. Darcy was definitely on the money with this one. And I mean, like people could say, "Oh no, that's bullshit," this and that, but I mean, just this year with what we've found, and I mean, he hit it right the nail right on the head. I mean, fantastic job.
Well,
Like I think he did like it was one of my favorite stories from 2019. Like this is one of my favorite books I've read from 2019. So I got to hand it to Darcy. He did a hit it out of the park, and man, like I've been chomping at the bit. Like any little news he gives on Twitter, I'm like just waiting for that date. You know, when he announces the date, when it's coming out, like I'm anticipating that, and I can't wait. I can't wait till he announces an official date for the release of Precious Metal.
Well, he's a
Yeah.
bit of a trendsetter and a trailblazer too, because yeah, this book might have been a little bit ahead of its time, but right now we're on the precipice of a really big intake of indigenous media. There's so many res movies that are actually being released
Mm-hmm.
to national audiences. We have shows like Reservation Dogs that are coming out. We have shows like what's the one about the cop chick that's really good? Tribal. There are
Okay.
several really good indigenous shows that are out that kind of are about these type of topics and stuff. So I think that it was really a good book for its time period, and I'm glad that he's continuing it because I didn't even know he was going to do a sequel. This book ends pretty definitively, so
Mm-hmm.
I always thought so. But sequels are sequels and give me more. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Oh, and
always down to see more of Ian Bertram's art. This
yeah,
gory,
it's
just surrealism.
the same creative team, and and Ben Zidzi, like I was saying before, did a fantastic job with the design on this book, and like I don't think designers get mentioned very often. Like a lot of people don't realize it, but they definitely give the book a sleek and very professional look. Like if you have a bad designer, I mean, you lose that aspect. And this definitely gives the book a lot of class. So kudos to him for the design work on the title, the the chapter breaks. I mean, it's fantastic stuff. Like top
I would.
quality from front to back. Like I don't think there's one aspect on this book that I could say anything really truly negative about. It's top class, top excellent comic, excellent book.
I would not be surprised, JP, if they were slightly inspired, at least by the first book of the Stone Purser graphic novel series, especially the one about the guy on the train. It is a lot different than what you saw in the film, but it is very Little Bird-esque. It is very grotesque and depressing. Very wonderful graphic novel, though, if you have the stomach for it. The movie really, really churches it up, to tell you the truth. So, yeah, if you haven't read Snowpiercer, definitely give it a shot though. You know what I mean? Like it'll make you cry though. I'm not gonna lie. It's
Yeah,
not forgiving.
yeah, and
Oh,
I
you
like that.
yeah, cool. You read that, so you were talking about the comic, right on. Sweet,
Yeah,
sweet JP.
uh, and man, I like that you mentioned Reservation Dogs because that's a show I forgot we watched during the check-in, and man, I love that show. That made your not that made your nice list for some of the top shows for our end of year show, and we binged it in like 2 days, I think, and love that show. It was great.
Oh man, the episode with where Cheese and the cop are riding around together was probably one of my favorite things I'd ever seen, dude. Like that was just such a good episode. That one and the one where the guy dug his weed up and was trying to sell it. Nobody
Yeah,
wanted to buy 16-year-old jar weed.
yeah. Oh, the whole show. There wasn't a bad
Yeah.
episode amongst them. And the kid, I can't remember his name, where he has Proudfoot or whatever shows up to give him like guidance and stuff.
Oh, the yeah the brave the woo
Yeah,
woo
yeah,
guy.
yeah. Woo! Oh, oh.
He is so
I,
funny, dude. Every time he shows
uh,
up, I lose
yeah.
it.
He was so hilarious, so funny. Oh, that's it. He shows up in that first episode. Like, I think he shows up pretty early on, and I couldn't stop laughing the first. Just I just couldn't stop laughing that
Yeah,
first scene with him. I just cracked up, and yeah,
I was there, Little Bighorn, man. Didn't really get to fight, didn't see Custer or anything, but yeah, man, he
yeah,
was a scary guy though. I was woo woo in the back
yeah.
and woo.
Mm.
Uh,
He dies because his horse hits a hits a a groundhog hole and rolls over, and his horse rolls on him and kills him. And
and he
yeah,
becomes Bear spirit animal. Yeah, kind of helps
yeah,
Bear.
yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so funny. Such a good show. I can't wait for the second season. It was great. Yeah.
For real. I'm glad you watched that. I'm glad you really liked it too. But yeah, you
Well,
got any last words?
it's because
Oh,
it's on Hulu, right? That came out on
yeah.
Hulu. Yeah, so I think I had to wait a while before they got it on the Disney Plus, because now we had it on Disney Plus. That's where I
Oh,
watched it.
okay.
So yeah,
Cool. Oh, that's
yeah,
right. I forgot that Disney owns the Hulu now, or owns part of it. So
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, last words on Little Bird. Uh, One of my top reads from 2019, and I'm happy we finally get to talk about it. We were looking for a book to talk about, so I threw this one out. Johnny had read it. I'd read it, so I was like, "Man, let's do this one." Johnny was on board, so fantastic read. Go pick it up. I mean, this is Darcy, Ian, and Matt at their best. Like, I mean, it's flawless. It's almost a perfect book as far as I'm concerned. So, man, go pick it up. I think it's. I think you could. It's still easy to find. I think you shouldn't have a hard time finding. You might
I
still be able to
still
find the
see the
hardcover.
I still find it in the wild all the time.
Yeah,
Like three out of four comic book shops I go to still have their copies there.
yeah, yeah. And like the hardcover is beautiful. So if you want to splurge for the hardcover, I'd tell you it's definitely worth it. Uh, the back in the back they have layouts, scripts, a lot of extra content. Matt puts a little section in. They each get a little section where they explain what they do. So you have Matt who talks about his color process in the back. You have Darcy talking about his script and layouts. He and Ian working together on the scripts and the rough layouts, the panel layouts. So it's definitely got some extra content if you want to see a little bit of how the book was made, how these three creators kind of work together on bringing it to life. I mean, it's definitely worth picking up the hardcover for the extra little back content.
I just remember when I was reading this when it came out, and I was always tripped out by the difference the sizes of the issues. I remember the first one came out as normal comic size. Issue two came out as like 32 pages. Issue three comes out as like 60 pages. It's fat. Like issue three is huge. So much happens in issue three too, man. Like it is probably one of the single greatest issues you'll find of a image sci-fi graphic novel. And issue four is kind of back to like I think 45 something pages, and I think the last issue is around 30 pages. But it had like this kind of really weird, inconsistent page count, and you don't really get that when you read the hardcover, in my opinion. Which
No,
I thought was more the only thing that was a little more fun about when you were reading it issue to issue, because when you would get the next one and it was so much bigger, you'd be like,
thicker,
"Oh wow,
yeah,
dude,
a bit
yeah."
thicker. Yeah, it was a nice surprise, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a nice one, and that was what it's not what kept me coming back because I was excited for this from the get-go. I don't know why, but and it's
See,
just yeah, since it came out, one of my favorite books of its ilk. You know what I mean?
I didn't
And
know much about it, and I saw it at the shop in the floppy form, but issue one was missing, so I never picked it up as a floppy. And so I waited for the collected edition to come out, and then I actually hunted down. I got a couple. I actually tracked down a few first issues. I have a signed first issue by, is it Darcy himself who signed it? And I have a variant cover that Casey Par- Persons did and signed. So I have a few. So I'd have to check to see if it's a Darcy that signed it or who signed. I have a first issue with it signed. So I have two, which is
another
cool.
thing. Another thing though too is this book also helped make me a Daniel Warren Johnson fan. I remember because of this book when I saw Extremity, because I knew Ghost Fleet and a couple things, but I didn't like I wasn't a Daniel Warren Johnson fan yet. I didn't know his name.
Mm.
But when Extremity came out, I was like, dude, that looks like Little Bird, but if Paul Pope drew it, I gotta check that the fuck out. And then it blew me away. Like Extremity is definitely on the same kick as this, almost as good. And yeah, that's
So,
because I love this book so much is the reason why I was so into checking out Extremity when it came out.
so Little Bird is like a gateway drug to Daniel Warren Johnson, is what you're saying.
At least for me personally, yeah, dude, it got me into that Daniel Warren Johnson shit, brah. You know how
Yeah,
it goes.
good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. So yeah, man, people go track this book down, and the the follow up arc is coming out this year before the end of the year. So get on it. Go find it. Get ready for the upcoming arc, because I have a feeling it's gonna be just
Well,
as
they
good
better
as
hurry
this
up.
first
There's
one.
very little this year left, man. I mean,
What do you mean?
we're
We
almost done
just
with January. It's almost over, man. It's, it's just flying by. But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
the year's almost done. Get fucking.
Get on it.
I was like, we're 2 weeks into the fucking year. What are you talking about, man?
Uh,
Uh,
But all right, yeah, this was the third episode of Pink Spots. Our next one, I do believe we will be talking about The Hunt by one Mr. Colin Lorimer. Joe mentioned his new book earlier, Daisy, which we'll
Daisy.
probably also be covering because the first two issues of that are flipping amazing. Colin Lorimer, another Canadian. I thought he was Irish, but I guess he's a
Uh,
Canadian too.
no.
And
Well, I'm not sure. He lives in Vancouver presently, but I think he might originally be
Ireland.
from Ireland or Scotland or something. Yeah, and maybe he moved here afterwards. But I know he lives in Canada now, out west. But I was kind of looking through, and I think I don't know if his parents migrated here or he did for some reason, but yeah. But he definitely has strong roots, Irish roots, or yeah.
But we're going to go Celtic folklore hardcore next time because The Hunt is brilliant. It's beautiful. It is badass. And Joey and I should really have fun talking about it with you. But until then, this is Pink Buzz, product of graphic vandalism. You know what that means? That means don't stop reading. Do not ever stop reading. Don't stop watching awesome movies. And if you're new here, man, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Check us out, see what we're all about, and check out the community. We got some good friends. We got the House of Nerds guys. We got the Burrito Boys. So, yeah, stick around, be friends. But until next time, take it easy, y'all.